think this is perhaps the hardest video I have ever made.
He stuck it in my butt and we went our separate ways, but happily ever after. Did I actually write that?
A man can live an entire lifetime. But has he truly been alive? As we grow older, we realize how fragile and transient life really is. 10 years goes by like 10 minutes. And then we start contemplating about all the things we have done, all the things we never got around to do. Not necessarily by choice, but because life came around and had other plans for us. And sometimes these plans can knock you dead in your tracks. In my case, I merely existed for a long time. I had stopped living. Ten wild horses couldn't force me to go beyond this point. You see, this is the place where I had an accident that nearly led me to quit photography for good. But to tell that story, I need to take you back more than 10 years. To a time where I met the greatest girl of all time. My girlfriend, which has now been with me for more than 10 years. She has held out for more than 10 years. Notice I put a lot of emphasis on held out. Because trust me, it hasn't been easy. But after some time, she noticed that I apparently had a knack for photography. But back then I only had my phone to take pictures with. And I took some decent photos for the time being with what I had. But she and her family got together and they bought me a camera. I remember it was the Pentax K50. Still have that camera. Never gonna get rid of that one. And that year I was outside more or less every single day. And I shot anything and everything. And after some time I wanted to shoot some wildlife, so I got my first long lens. And trust me, it was a bit different than this freaking bazooka right here, trust me. It was the 400mm 5.6 fully manual lens. Manual aperture, manual focusing. And it was only, how should I put it, acceptably sharp at f11. And for all of those of you who have shot long lenses, you know that the shutter speed should be at least equal to the focal length or higher on a lens, which means that I had to be shooting at f11 and 500 of a second, which again means that the ISO had to be cranked through the roof, or to get enough light, or you have to shoot into the sun. That being said, I'm really proud of having that lens from the very beginning, because I have learned so much from having a kind of a very primitive start to my photography. And I got some rather decent photos. I remember one of a butterfly, Vanessa Atalanta, that's what the name is, the Admiral butterfly. Anyway, after a while, things got rather serious. I got my first photo printed in one of Scandinavia's biggest photo magazines, and I sold a bunch of prints. One is even hanging in a home in Chicago right now. So I guess you can say that my confidence was getting rather inflated. But trust me, I paid a very high price for that overconfidence. It never fails. Every single time I'm out trying to record something, all hell breaks loose. It's raining, it's snowing, it's a freaking hurricane, lightning strikes, volcanic eruptions, you name it, it's probably going to happen if it hasn't already. But anyway, as you can see behind me there's some cliffs. And that one day when everything went to heck in a handbasket, I was standing on the other side of that cliff. I was framing up this beautiful sunset image, and I was so focused on what I was doing. I was only paying attention to what was going on the back of the screen on the camera, that I didn't notice where I was placing my feet. That is, until I stepped on that one very large rock that was carefully balanced on another rock underneath. So now me, myself, and the camera and the rock are currently doing a very rapid descent of that cliff. If you just knew how much I freaking hate doing this. If you just knew. I will never forget the moment when my behind hit the ground. It felt like you had pulled the pin on a hand grenade and swallowed the grenade. It was this explosion of pain, and it spread like wildfire, like all the way down into my toes, throughout my arms into my fingertips, and especially the feeling when it crept up my spine, up throughout my neck and into the back of my head. I don't think I have any words in my vocabulary to sufficiently describe the amount of fear that I was feeling at that time, at that moment. And then I started crying. Not because of the pain, but because I was scared out of my wits. I genuinely thought that I had broken my back. Man, I think this is perhaps the hardest video I have ever made. start something, all hell breaks loose. It's raining, it's snowing, it's a freaking hurricane, lightning strikes, volcanic eruptions, you name it, it's probably going to happen if it hasn't already. I remember I got my phone up and I called my girlfriend, still crying. And the stretch from where I fell and up to the car could probably not have been longer than 100 meters or so, but it felt like I was walking for hours. I used my tripod as a makeshift crutch, and as I was limping along, suddenly my legs went numb, and that made me hysterical. I kind of had to look down and see what my legs were doing. They kind of worked, but I also had to kind of help them along. And then I got to the car, and I remember I opened the door, the rear door, and I just threw everything inside, with not a care in the world for not damaging like the camera and the gear and everything. I just chucked it in there. I got in the driver's seat, and suddenly I was starting to see these strange light flares almost in my vision. Kind of hard to describe. And I was told later that I must have been an inch away from passing out from the pain. But then I realized that if I kind of sat like this, it kind of relieved some of the pain. And I could somewhat use my right foot to handle the accelerator and the brake pedal. And I could use one arm to kind of steer. I shouldn't have been driving at all. And thankfully it wasn't automatic. And that's the only time you will ever hear me say that. And then I drove off, which I should never have done. I had an 80-kilometer drive home. It was foolish at best. "We need to get you up on your feet," a paramedic said. So eventually I got up. Well, they did. I didn't do shit. But they very quickly realized that they had to put me back down on the stretcher because I was about to pass out again. So they rushed me to the emergency room, and upon arriving in the emergency room, I was given vial after vial after vial of morphine, and I was getting higher and higher.
And I was kind of feeling good and shit at the same time. And soon as they realized this, they went to get the big guns.
It was at this moment Alex knew that he'd fucked up. I was supposed to bring something today that I had borrowed from my girlfriend. But I forgot, because I'm an idiot. So, for those of you who have seen a knitting needle, this is roughly the same size of the needle on the syringe that the nurse came back with. And mind you, I am not scared of needles. But this looked like something that you would skewer a pig with. And I was like, you know what, Doc? I'm feeling much better already, so I'll be going now. He was like, the fuck you are, you dumbass. You can hardly walk. Sit down. And then he started to explain why it was so thick. It was because when he was putting this in one of the biggest and strongest muscle in the human body, it needed to be this thick so that in case you flinch, you don't break the needle inside, because then you'll have a much bigger problem. And I was like, and where's that? And then he just looked at me like, your butt.
So, after a bit of back and forth, he stuck it in my butt and we went our separate ways, lived happily ever after. Did I actually write that? I know it sounds like I'm making fun of this entire thing, and I kind of am, but it's the only way that I'm able to cope with the entire thing. So, yeah, that's just how it is. Why do I sound like I'm from Alabama? It's probably not how they speak in Alabama, but... Can I pet that dog? Can I pet that dog?
It is not easy to get across how much this thing broke me. I spent 6 months recovering. I spent most of them on crutches as my legs didn't cooperate. The first few weeks, I couldn't even feel my willy when going to the bathroom. But the hardest blow went to my mental health. I was a mess. Depression, anxiety, panic attacks, the fear of falling. Heck, I even got sweaty palms walking across the lawn. My comfort zone became my coffin, slowly suffocating the last life out of me. And if it weren't for my amazing girlfriend, it would have been the end of me. My confidence had to be rebuilt from scratch. So, I started taking classes in first aid, accidental hypothermia, mycology and foraging, bushcraft, etc. Most people were shaking their heads, but my confidence and knowledge was growing. What really gave people a reason to shake their heads was when I started hiking up mountains in the pitch black night in minus 15 degrees Celsius. Not exactly common sense, but I needed to. I craved the sensation of feeling my body endure it, to learn that I could trust in myself and my abilities. And I might be an adrenaline junkie, which is probably why I ended up falling off a cliff in the first place. Not necessarily to be strong, but to feel strong.